Hello, humans. Michael Herrick here with HIPAA for Humans, realistic cybersecurity advice for healthcare. I want to talk about two technologies that can really help improve your cybersecurity posture, the penetration test and the vulnerability scan. Now, these terms are sometimes kind of blurred together in our industry. And so I want to be really clear and distinguish one from the other. When we talk at Matterform, when we talk about a penetration test, we're referring to a very hands-on experiment. A penetration test is where an ethical hacker, with your permission, actively tries to break into your online systems. They try to exploit vulnerabilities and do what a hacker would do to gain access to systems. They're trying to find and then document those weaknesses in your system so that you can make improvements. It's very much a hands-on process. It is a manual process. It is an art more than a science. It requires an expert with experience, with judgment, and with creativity. It's very much a human-driven process. A vulnerability scan, on the other hand, is an automated process. In a vulnerability scan, a technician uses software that can scan your network, can scan and discover and scan computers on your network and look for known vulnerabilities. A vulnerability scan can detect outdated operating systems, unpatched software. It can detect open ports on your firewall. All good information to have. And you can see that a vulnerability scan is often the very first step in doing a pen test. A pen tester will often conduct first a vulnerability scan to find those vulnerabilities on your network and then use their expertise and their creativity to try to exploit and then document those exploits, how a hacker could use these vulnerabilities to break into your network. So it's really important to understand the difference between these, at least so that you know what you're getting, so that you know what you're paying for if you hire an expert to do any of these things. Unfortunately, there are some cybersecurity professionals, either uninformed or unprofessional, who advertise penetration tests, but who are really just delivering automated vulnerability scans. And then they print out the report and they put their logo at the top and they call it a pen test. That's not a pen test. So just be aware of that and make sure that you're getting what you're asking for when you're looking for these different solutions. And also make sure that you're using pen tests and vulnerability scans at the right point in your cybersecurity journey, particularly with a pen test. I think that a pen test delivers the most value to an organization that already has a fairly mature cybersecurity program. It's definitely not something that you should use to start your cybersecurity journey. It comes more towards the end of your cybersecurity journey. It's more of a last step than it is a first step. Keep in mind that a pen test necessarily tends to be very limited in scope. It's generally focused on network intrusions. Now you can do a physical security pen test, you can do a social engineering pen test, but unless somebody specifies, they're generally talking about a network penetration test. And the network may not be where the biggest risks are for your organization. If you do a network penetration test on your cloud servers, for example, that pen test may not be able to detect that your staff is walking around with unencrypted laptops. And those unencrypted laptops may very well be a much bigger risk to your organization than anything that the pen tester would ever be able to find. In a similar way, a vulnerability scan may find, for example, an open port on your firewall. This is a vulnerability that you need to know about, but the vuln scan by itself doesn't give you the whole picture that you need to evaluate the risk of that vulnerability. So, for example, if the service that uses that port is protected with multi-factor authentication, the risk of that open port may be negligible in your environment. If not, the risk may be critical. The vulnerability scan alone can't answer that question for you. So where can you get the answers to these questions? It all comes back to the risk assessment. That's what we do at Matterform. All we do at Matterform is HIPAA risk assessments. A risk assessment gives you these answers. It gives you the context that you need to get the value out of a vulnerability scan and a penetration test later on in your cybersecurity journey. The risk assessment is where you should start. The risk assessment is required by HIPAA, and it's the foundation of your cybersecurity strategy. It's all we do at Matterform is risk assessment. So if you need help with that, schedule a video call and let's see if we can help you out. I'm Michael Herrick, HIPAA for Humans. Please like, please share, and thanks for watching.